When does venting become unhealthy? So we recently talked about if your friend wants to vent, typically we will ask the question, do you want advice or do you just want to vent? A lot of the time we will find that we just want to vent, our friends just want to vent, they just want to get it out and then move forward. We've also talked about how that advice sometimes might not be helpful coming from a different perspective, but sometimes it can be helpful. We want to show up for our friends, family members, relationships, etc. the way that they need us. So if they just want to vent, that might just be what they need in that moment. But sometimes venting too much about the same scenario, the same situation over and over again, not learning your lesson, that can do a lot of damage to not only yourself, but the relationships that you're venting to. It's one thing to be going through a certain situation or scenario and have to call your friends up and vent, get it off your chest. It's another when it's the same scenario over and over and over again. Eventually, that friend that's listening is going to get a little fed up. They're going to realize you're not learning your lessons that you need to be learning. You're not changing, taking accountability, fixing the situation. You're just sitting in victim mode. I hate to call it that, but that kind of is what it turns into. You start throwing a pity party for yourself. You stop focusing on how can things get better, and you just start focusing on venting every chance you get on the topic, and that's when it can become unhealthy. You need to be able to vent, let it go, but you also need to be able to grow and learn from every situation that you're in. So venting too much about the same situation and not changing anything about it, not fixing it, and not letting others give maybe a little bit of input or advice can be very detrimental to yourself and that relationship that you're dealing with that problem in. And the person that you're venting to eventually will get fed up and just won't want to hear it anymore. Eventually they're going to say to you, hey, I have advice for you if you want to take it, but I can't keep listening to the same thing over and over again if you're not going to do anything to fix it or change it. That's when venting can become unhealthy, and also it can be a moment of like, you're so focused on what you're venting on, then you're not really taking away what you could be learning from it. Having a different perspective is also very helpful in situations like that. Sometimes we need to put ourselves in the perspective of the other person that maybe we're going through a scenario with, just to be able to see maybe why they're hurt or so on, whatever the situation is. When you're venting nonstop from your perspective, it's very hard to see from the other person's perspective. So just keep that in mind when you are venting and when you're letting it out and when you're letting your friends vent, when it can become too much, when it can become unhealthy, and how do you guys communicate about that? How do you set boundaries? How do you talk through it? Be honest with your friends, your relationship. Try your best to be kind when you're being honest about this is getting to be a little unhealthy, and try to have an open mind when receiving information like that as well. When our mind is closed, we can't see from another person's perception. So keep that in mind. Love you guys.